What's up, you guys? Welcome back to this week's Manga Sutra manga review, and in this week's video we're going to be talking about an ecchi horror drama called Infection. Now, the manga starts off with our main character Amamiya, who is hanging out with this group of friends who are today trying to hook Amamiya up with his childhood friend that he considers like a sister, Satsuki. Now, their grand plan is to lock Amamiya up in a tool shed with Satsuki behind the school, and after several hours return and unlock the tool shed to let them out. Their plan is hoping that in that amount of time, Amamiya will confess his feelings for Satsuki and something will happen between the two. However, this plan backfires when Amamiya is locked in the shed with another girl that he has no idea. Now, after some talking, he discovers that the girl's name is Kirara. And an abnormal amount of time passes by for them to be stuck in the shed, with his friends still not getting them out until they hear loud and frantic banging on the tool shed, followed by silence. This is when they wait, and then they sneak out, and they find that the school is eerily quiet. Now, while going back to get their belongings and leave school, they encounter some students who seem to be behaving weird. And upon closer inspection, they find that these students have maggots coming out of their eyes and their mouths. Now, Kirara and Amamiya are forced to fend off these infected, and then they reunite with another group of survivors from the school, in which they learn that a huge portion of Japan has been afflicted with a mysterious illness that knocked out a portion of people, and then as they reawoke as infected. Now, Amamiya has been trying to get in touch with Satsuki. She seems to be fine, but she is in a completely different location. This forces Amamiya with Kirara as well as Satsuki to survive on their own and hopefully reunite together at a later point. Now, Infection is like Kyoshu Reto, and I say this in a way that is good. If you have seen my video on Kyoshu Reto, I've been ripping into it. I have said that Kyoshu Reto focuses so much on the ecchi and the hentai elements of it that the plot is almost non-existent, and that it's pretty much just hentai with giant bugs here and there killing people from time to time. But Infection is different. Infection focuses very much on the plot. It is very plot heavy, it is very plot rich. You do have sexual elements throughout the manga. I'd say an example of this is at the beginning of the manga, Kirara loses her skirt to one of the infected. And for almost half the manga, she decides to walk around in her underwear because she is more comfortable in underwear. Now, the manga doesn't continuously throw this at you like Kyoshu Reto would. The manga merely reminds you from time to time, hey, she's in her underwear. Some of the other characters react to her being in her underwear, but it is mostly not that many sexual elements or elements that lead to action. Like, I would say that it is a slow build because Amamiya builds a harem throughout the manga. Kirara is one of the first ones. Satsuki is his childhood love interest. He does have another friend at the school that he builds up a romantic interest with, but as the manga progresses, we see Amamiya is this brave and strong young man who is willing to jump into any situation to save anybody, and this earns him the romantic and sexual interests or attentions of several females, and it makes his harem quite complicated. And at first there is no problem with that, but later on, I'd say halfway into the manga, I'd say 50-60 chapters in, is when other characters begin to comment on his harem. They begin to comment on how his harem may cause problems, or how his harem is a point of drama, or it is a source of drama within the group. You have all of these females competing for his attention, competing for his affection, competing for his feelings. And in a infected survival situation, that is not ideally good, because there will be negative feelings here and there there is resentment here and there. And that is not what you want when you are trying to survive from infected humanoids who are trying to kill you. Now, I'd say the infected and infection are pretty interesting. You know, they're not some bland, you know, walkers like you have in The Walking Dead. You have them begin to evolve. You have them begin to have complex speech patterns and complex thought and prove themselves capable of doing other tasks that were thought impossible. And it's funny because the manga lulls you into this false sense of security when one of the scientists tells you they can't possibly evolve beyond this point, right? And then later on in the manga just takes a fat shit on it. The manga just literally is like, you don't think they can evolve? How about this? Then throws a whole bunch of different elements and a whole bunch of different plot twists to it. I do say some of these infected do have sad stories. And then there are some characters that we believe to be infected that behave like they're not infected. And it makes us question what separates the infected from people that are not infected. What separates the way they behave? What dictates the way they behave? What dictates what makes them that way? What is the source of this mysterious illness? Who is behind it? How is the rest of the world reacting to this? These are important plot elements that this manga does focus on and that this manga does bring up. And that's why I like it more than Kyoshu Reto, because Kyoshu Reto is more so you're just kind of looking for something that's like a hentai, has ecchi elements in there, non-stop, but no plot whatsoever. Go ahead. You know, you might find some plot elements here and there, but it's almost non-existent, and the way the characters act, the way the characters behave, it's almost painful to read it beyond a certain point. Now, Infection has a lot of plot elements. It is interesting to read. I'd say, like I said, the ecchi elements are there, but it's not every other page. It's not every 3 pages. It's not every 4 pages. It's there. It's subtle, and there's a build up to it. There's a build up to the action that you're looking for. But if you're looking for instant action, you're not going to find it until like halfway into the manga. And when that does happen, it's for about 2 to 3 chapters. And then it starts snowballing from there, because then the rest of the harem really starts heating up in their competition for Amamiya's affections. So they start to get more bold. They start to get more risque. They start doing a lot of sexual things. That's where the manga really starts heating up. But if you're just trying to skim for that, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it. You are going to be missing a lot of good plot. Now, another element that I like about this manga that made me want to talk about it for so long, because I finished reading it about a week, 2 weeks ago, and I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'm not making this video now. But one thing I really wanted to talk about is the firefighters in this manga. The firefighters are like gods. You have one dude that's in this firefighting group who is able to decapitate the infected with his bare hands. With 2 assault rifles, he's able to take on hundreds, if not thousands of infected and still survive. With a katana, he is able to decapitate a ginormous, titan-sized infected. Single-handedly, no problem, no sweat, low difficulty. And I'd say for like the bulk of the manga at first, the infected are held off by the firefighters. The firefighters act as like humanitarian aid workers, military, peacekeepers, a lot of different stuff. They handle a lot of different roles at the start of the manga, and they play a very important role towards the safety of other characters in the manga. And they're the ones that protect the scientists. The scientists are able to work out what's going on and probably how to counteract all of this. But none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the firefighters actually repelling the infected, actually corralling the infected into different locations. And Amamiya ends up joining the firefighters, and it's this big thing because, you know, at first I was just like, firefighters? No one gives a flip flap about that, right? But they do a lot. They do a lot in this manga. They are a really heavy plot point, and Amamiya becoming one is like this huge step up into manhood for him. Like, he becomes a lot more brave, a lot more bold. He begins to learn things. He begins to learn how to more effectively handle the infected. This dude's balls really drops when he joins the Firefighters. Like, I'm just gonna say that. So if you like Firefighters, you are curious about this element of Firefighters in this manga, it's there. Read it. Now, the Firefighters, they don't last that long. I'm not gonna spoil how they go out, but they don't last forever within the manga, or at least to a point their numbers dwindle, as is anything in any horror survival manga, you know? Eventually the numbers do begin to dwindle because the infected, aka the monsters in any type of manga that falls within this subgenre, picks them off one by one. And that's what happens to the firefighting force. They get picked off one by one. Eventually, all of their peacekeeping efforts, all of this stuff that they do gets to them. You know, it gets to anybody in any type of manga, so it's not really a spoiler to say that. When I say they still exist in the manga after like a certain point, I think 80 chapters in, they still do exist. Amami is still a firefighter. There is still like a handful of firefighters there still left. There is new elements and new groups added into the dynamic. And you do have some family conflicts that play a role here and there. But I would like to say this manga is just... I'd say it's amazing. Like, compared to Kyoshu Reto, it's amazing. And I haven't read that many manga in the past month or so, but Infection is really good. It has a perfect balance of sexual elements and plot, and it's a lot deeper than Kyoshu Reto, that's for sure. So, I don't know. Kyoshu Reto is going to be a manga that I'm going to constantly have, like, on a list of manga that I'm just gonna keep talking about in a negative way somehow. But I liked talking about this manga. I really was looking forward to making this video. Hopefully you guys look at it. Hopefully you guys give it a try. It is worth it. Also, I appreciate any support that you can give this channel, so drop a subscribe. I would really appreciate it. The channel is really picking up. We're starting to snowball in watch time and subscribers, and I'm appreciating all the effort. I'm appreciating you guys even taking the time to watch it this far into the video. So I love you guys. Bye.